Things just got really juicy over at Adobe. As you've probably heard, Adobe have acquired Figma for a whopping $20 billion with a B dollars. And we're soon going to see what that actually means to you Figma users out there. On the news of this deal, the Adobe stock price suffered the worst fall in 10 years. More about that later. But has Adobe made a huge error, and could this spell the end or the demise of this huge titan in Silicon Valley? Well, firstly, why did Adobe spend so much money and capital and stock on Figma? Well, the obvious answer would be fear and just competition. Instead of deciding to compete with Figma, which is an awesome product might I add, they've decided to just outright acquire it. When it comes to buying companies, Adobe isn't too shy. Since 2018, they have bought Frame.io, a social media marketing platform called Content Cal, and a collaboration maker called Workfront. Oh, and also in 2018, they spent $4.75 billion on something called Marketo. Yeah, I have not heard of it either. Adobe's buying things quicker than I'm actually buying new rare Pokemon cards. And that's a thought actually. How do you think Adobe is actually doing at the moment as a business? Yeah, surely if they are worried about competition and that's, many people are actually fed up and bored with paying monthly subscriptions to Adobe, they should be losing money, right? Wrong. Actually, Adobe's profits for a 12-month period from May 2021 to 2022 was actually $14.66 billion. But yeah, obviously they have expended a huge amount of revenue on this deal. And actually it's 50-50 between cash and stock, so $10 billion apiece. The fact that the stock price of Adobe crashed the hardest in 10 years does show that investors might not be on board with the decision. Many people actually suggest that the $20 billion price tag was just way too much. My thoughts are that there are people that Adobe have used obviously to crunch the numbers and just run simulations for profit margins, and they probably do know what they're doing. It's still pretty pricey though, right? But what happens to Figma? People online have voiced their opinions pretty strongly. This person thinks Figma will soon become just as expensive as Adobe programs, and it's a pretty cool illustration that he posted. So I'm just going to smash that like button. But the truth is, nobody truly knows what's going to happen to Figma and XD from here onwards. However, statements from Adobe and also Figma suggest that not much is going to happen to Figma, at least not negatively speaking anyway. And to the joy of many Figma hobbyists and designers, apparently the price model isn't going to change from here onwards. But like I said, nothing is set in stone as of yet. And Figma isn't going to be under the Adobe umbrella until somewhere in 2023 anyway. And that's when we will actually fully understand what Adobe plans in terms of integration with Figma. We might actually see that Figma becomes a part of the Creative Cloud package. And perhaps there might be some shareability between Adobe Dimensions and also Figma. However, my humble opinion is that it doesn't make sense from a business standpoint to both run Adobe XD and Figma at the same time. I believe that one of them is eventually just going to be axed in 2023 or sometime around there anyway, but I'm not sure which one it's going to be. Figma is clearly the crowd favorites and it's more intuitive to use. It's also totally free to those in education, which is really, really cool. Adobe has said Figma will reach a market value of $16.55 billion by 2025, and that's across design, whiteboarding, and collaborations. So they obviously are here to play the long game when it comes to Figma. It's Future Tom here, several days after recording the video you're watching now, and something crazy has happened, so I need to add it into the video. Have you ever heard of something called Penpot Inc? No, I didn't either, but it's actually an open source platform that brings developers and designers together to work on projects. Since the Adobe deal with Figma, it's actually seen signups increase by 5,600%. So on the one hand, you have Adobe who are spending billions and billions of dollars to buy out other companies, and then you have something like Penpot Inc, which are open source and free. It's two very different worlds, and it's going to be interesting to see if they can actually coexist together in harmony. Or will Adobe just pretty much acquire Penpot Inc at some point as well? It's pretty obvious that a lot of users from Figma have jumped ship over to Penpot Inc since the Adobe deal with them. And in all honesty, this is pretty much another thorn in the foot for Adobe. Money cannot buy consumer loyalty past a certain point of no return, and maybe, just maybe, Adobe are reaching that point right now. Swinging back around to Adobe, let's check out their stock price. I do actually invest and trade in crypto and stocks on a daily basis, so I do see these kind of charts all the time. The the Adobe stock has been declining since 2021. And you might think to yourself, well, Adobe's in serious trouble here. But the reality is that the majority of stocks out there are falling in similar ways as well. These drops were sparked by the pandemic, among other things. But to me, the Adobe stock is very, very overextended and has a lot more downside to come yet. Here's the S&P, which is basically a collection of many US businesses, and we can see a similar structure and pattern playing out where the stock has essentially topped out and it's heading south. Most stocks are probably going to drop over the next 1 or 2 years, but is Adobe going to weather the storm, and will it come out of the recession okay? My answer or outlook is probably yes. Adobe has the capital, they have the power, the dominance, and the employee numbers behind them. But Adobe is probably going to still be a dominant force even up until 2024 and onwards. We'll have to wait to 2023 to see what's going to happen to Figma. And speaking of which, by that time, artificial intelligence might have taken over the whole design space. And if you want to explore that topic, then just click the video on screen. But until next time, guys, design your future today. Peace.